All right. Hello, everybody, and welcome to today's webinar, Travel with American Ancestors in the Year Ahead. My name is Kathleen McKenzie, Education and Programming Manager here at American Ancestors and New England Historic Genealogical Society, and I will be moderating today's session. This program is brought to you by the Brew Family Learning Center. American Ancestors and New England Historic Genealogical Society is a nonprofit organization supported by our members and donors. We provide resources and expertise in nearly all aspects of family history and are pleased to offer such programming for our members and friends around the world. Today, we're going to discuss our plans for upcoming research tours in the year ahead, and we'll briefly touch on our day trip opportunities with American Ancestors as well. Our goal is to help you understand how each research tour can benefit your family history research so that you can decide if you'd like to come along with us and take your research on the road this year. Our presenters today are Chief Genealogist David Allen Lambert and Senior Genealogist Rhonda R. McClure. Both David and Rhonda have many years of experience assisting researchers on our tours, and at least one of them will be traveling on all of these tours to discuss today, if not both of them. David is an internationally recognized speaker on the topics of genealogy and history. He's authored many articles in the New England Historical and Genealogical Register, the New Hampshire Genealogical Record, Rhode Island Roots, the Mayflower Descendant, and American Ancestors magazine. He's also compiled 11 books, including a guide to Massachusetts cemeteries. His areas of expertise include New England and Atlantic Canadian records of the 17th through 21st centuries, American and international military records, DNA research, and Native American and African American genealogical research in New England. Rhonda is a nationally recognized professional genealogist and lecturer. Before joining American Ancestors/NEHGS in 2006, she ran her own genealogical business for 18 years. In addition to numerous articles, she is the author of 12 books, including the award-winning Complete Idiot's Guide to Online Genealogy, and she is also the editor of the recently released 6th edition of the Genealogist's Handbook for New England Research. Her areas of expertise include immigration and naturalization, late 19th and early 20th century urban research, New England, the Midwest, Southern, German, Italian, Scottish, Irish, French Canadian, and New Brunswick research. Now, before I hand things over to David and Rhonda to get into the details of each tour, I do briefly want to give you an overview of what research tours are and how they can help you. I also attend these tours alongside the genealogists to help run logistics, and I'm available to help answer any questions you may have about registering for the tours, the tour schedules, etc. So here is just kind of a little sneak peek of all of the research tours that we're going to talk about today. We have 5 coming in the year ahead, and maybe you recognize some of these locations. So what are research tours? The goals of our research tours are to provide you with the opportunity to really delve into records and resources that are available on site in archives, libraries, and other repositories. A lot of people think that everything has been digitized and is available online, but that is definitely not the case. These tours also help to connect you with our staff through lectures, consultations, tutorials, and just by chatting with the genealogists throughout the week as we spend time together in these repositories. They also allow you to focus on your research and really devote time to your family history. And I think most importantly, they help you enjoy the company of others who share your passion for genealogy. I've heard from many people that this is one of their most favorite aspects from these trips. We've seen a lot of friendships formed on these tours, and there's a lot of camaraderie that comes from researching together in these repositories. So now I want to kind of quickly go over what's included in all of these tours. So a big one is consultations, including one pre-tour virtual consultation that allows you to speak with a genealogist about your research plans so that you can better prepare for what you'll be researching on site in the repositories. They also include orientations to the repositories, lectures from the expert genealogists on the tour, The hotel costs are also included unless otherwise indicated. We do have one tour this year where the hotel is not included. And the tours also include group meals. Usually this is 2 dinners, one at the start of the tour and one at the end. But sometimes we'll kind of throw in an extra meal or two in there, and that will be indicated on each individual tour page. And I am going to talk about kind of our different ticket types a little bit more, but I do want to note that if you are bringing a non-researching guest, they just receive the hotel room benefits and the group meals, none of the kind of research-oriented benefits of the tour. So I do also want to mention what's not included in the tour. So we do not include flights or any other transportation that you may need to take to get there. Everyone arrives on their own and handles transportation in the area that we are. Um, Also meals outside of the designated group meals you'll do on your own. And any other tourism activities that you might like to do in the city that we're in, that would be separate as well. So as I mentioned, I did want to talk a little bit about the ticket types that we have available for these tours. We always get a lot of questions about that. So most people purchase a single ticket for themselves, but we do also have attendees who are researching with a family member or a friend. In this case, you can each opt to purchase a double ticket, which will allow you to get all of the benefits of the research tour, but you'll share the hotel room. And this does allow for a little bit of savings for the two of you because the double ticket is cheaper than the single ticket. You can also purchase a double with non-researching guest ticket, and that would allow you to bring along a family member or a friend who can stay in your hotel room with you and attend our group meals, but they will not join us for the research. And then finally, if you live nearby or if you'd like to stay in another hotel for any reason, you can purchase a commuter ticket. This would include all of the benefits of the research tour except for the hotel. As I mentioned, these are the ticket tour types for most of the tours this year. So we do have one that's a little bit different that David's going to talk about later on. It's our tour to the Midwest Genealogy Center. And for that one, we just have a single ticket type because the hotel is not included. So there's no need for these additional ticket types shown here. All of our tours coming up this year have been added to the website, so you can visit each tour page to view pricing as well as the full itineraries. All right, so I know you're probably eager to hear more about each tour, so I'm going to go ahead and turn things over to David and Rhonda.
Thank you very much, Kathleen. I'm delighted to join my colleague Rhonda McClure and, of course, Kathleen, as we talk about the exciting year ahead. And, of course, some of the things are this fall. The thing I think every year I look forward to is going back to Salt Lake City. And I've been going on the tour for now nearly 30 years. And it's a wonderful opportunity to sort of jumpstart your research before those cold months get in. And we find so many wonderful discoveries when we're there. So let's talk a little bit about Salt Lake. So for 2023, coming up in just a couple of months, November 5th to 12th, we'll be in Salt Lake City at the Family History Research Library. And on 2024, we'll be there November 10th to 17th. We're always there right after Halloween and right in middle or early November. The repository we'll visit, of course, is the Family History Library, as shown below. If you've never been there before, I highly suggest going. Under one roof, there are millions upon millions of resources between microfilm, digitized records, books, and other collections that will help you find your global family tree. And we stay at the Salt Lake Plaza, which you can't really see in that picture, but it's right next door. The Family History Library, and I'm going to go into some of the hard numbers to give you an idea of how big this is, have microfilms, books, they have databases, they have maps, and they also have a really amazing staff which have a global knowledge of collections. So you may have somebody there who is from Japan that is on the staff, or is a volunteer who will help you read records. Same thing with Germany, Russia, whatever the case might be. You'll find that besides having the resources, they'll have a human resource that should be able to assist you. The Family History Library by the numbers. So 340,000 unique family history books. They originally had many of the family genealogy books out of the library, but they've brought them back so you can use them in the Family History Library. There are over 1.3 million microfilms and over 197 microfiche. Now, many of these have been digitized. I'm going to talk a little bit about that because your thought might be, well, I can get it online. Well, not all of them. They have over 128,000 periodicals from around the world. Sorry about that slight typo there, minusing the zero. They have 18,000 plus maps from around the globe. Family Search has digitized library titles that you can access in the library of over 500,000 titles. And there are restricted items only at the Family History Library. Talk a little bit about that. So restricted films and digital items. So there are going to be microfilms and microfiche that are restricted that you can only look at there. And those can be received from the special collections room on the second floor of the library. So to view those, you need a contract, the restricted film list. You'll find that it's restricted. See the reference test, and all you need is a valid ID. Now, that being said, you may also see something that has a key over it, like a camera at home. And you've probably seen the icon that shows up. Looks like a camera with the word photo, but you don't have the image. These are items that are available only at the Family History Library or an affiliate library. In some cases, like the New York Vital Records, only at the Family History Library. These are because of contractual agreements that permit them only to have them viewable at the center itself. So one of the great added advantages is spend your time going through and what you couldn't look at home. Take a look at it in Salt Lake City, besides all of the books, the other resources, and the staff that can help you, along with myself, Rhonda, and Melanie McComb. Now, the Family History Library catalog is very easy to get to. Just go to familysearch.org. And if you go down to the third option under search, click on catalog, you'll be underway. You can do your search by place, surnames, the title of a book, the author, a subject, or a keyword. And I actually give a full-length catalog talk in 2 different sessions during the week at the beginning. So if you didn't quite catch this or you needed added help, we take care of that for you each time. So in this case, I'm just going to search on a place. When I search on a place, Brereton cum Smethwick in Cheshire, England, I start to type in and it automatically autofills down below, and then I hit search. I'm now given the fact that there is census, church records, and taxation. Well, for vital records, I don't see vitals, so what's the next best thing? Of course, our church records. Civil registration in England didn't start to 1837, so the church records are my best source to look at right at the moment. So I'm going to click on that and I can find out that there are 3 different breakdowns. And one of them includes parish registers for Brereton cum Smethwick, 1538 to 1972. That's a far range of years. So I'm going to click on that and take a peek at it. And when I look, I can find it in some cases, the records are actually indexed. So I can click there, or I can pull up the actual digital image. Now, in this case, the digital images are locked. However, when I am at the Family History Library, clicking on one of the camera icons will allow me to see the actual images, the original records, which I can download, I can change the contrast, I can save, and of course I can print. And the next image will give you an example of those type of records. And this is just a listing here. This happens to be my Thomas Lee, my third great grandfather's baptism back in 1801. And again, can't look at it from home, but I can at the Family History Library. Now, sightseeing, there's plenty of things to see in the area around the Family History Library, and I'm going to let Kathleen tell you about that.
Sure. So the Family History Library and our hotel are right in Temple Square. So there are plenty of sites to see around there. We are also pretty much right across the street from the Utah Museum of Contemporary Art. Definitely worth checking that out. And another popular activity that I know a number of tour participants have done, and I've done myself and can definitely recommend, is the public tabernacle choir rehearsal that takes place every Thursday evening. So that's definitely a great way to kind of unwind after a full day of research. So yeah, a lot of fun things to see in Salt Lake City. All right, so I think now we are going to head over to Rhonda for hearing about our National Archives tour.
Hello, everyone, and thank you for joining us this afternoon. One of my favorites, in addition to going to Salt Lake every year, is when we have an opportunity to go to Washington, D.C. And in March, we will be going to just the National Archives for a week, which I'm super excited about. Usually we split between 3 different repositories, gets a little crazy. And so just going to the National Archives is going to be super exciting because of the history you'll be touching. The dates of the research tour will be March 24th to the 30th in 2024, and we will be going to the National Archives in Washington, D.C. And the image that you see there is the entrance for the researchers. This is not the entrance where you go to view the historic documents. We will be staying on the campus of George Washington University at the State Plaza Hotel. It's an amazing hotel. Every room is sort of like a little mini suite where you've got a little kitchenette and everything. So it's a great way to save by getting some food and stuff. And we will be taking a bus to and from the archives. The National Archive resources, they do have some published books and some microfilm that are available, but really the bulk of their collection are original documents that are identifying and describing life in the United States and the government of the United States. Some of the records that they include are the military records before World War I, homestead records, immigration records, one of my personal favorites. And then there's a lot of other records relating to the United States. So in other words, we have to have had the Revolutionary War and to become the US. So they start with the Revolutionary War, certain records, and then they go forward. The archives.gov website is the National Archives online arm. And the big area that you're going to spend a lot of time in preparation for a tour like this is the furthest left-hand box, Research Our Records. Among other things that you can do there is you can access their catalog. And this is their simple search. And you'll see we've just put in homestead records. Notice at the far right that they have a button for advanced search. That particular window will allow you to put a lot of different things in, including the specific record group number that you need. For instance, like I said, I'm really into the immigration records. Most of those are under record group 85, so I can narrow my searching using the advanced search that way. When you are physically there, because most of their records are not digitized in any way, shape, or form, they have a carbonless form that is 3 copies. There's a white, a pink, and a green. And not sure where the white goes because I never see it again. The pink actually goes to the research room, and we'll talk about that in just a second. And the green stays with the documents you've requested. This is the form, and there are 2 different ones that you will use when you are requesting various records through the National Archives system. And here is the second form. This one is just for military records, service records, and pension records. Those are going to be done for only those military records that they have that A, are in their building, and B, have not been digitized. Once you've filled out your form, then they send you up to the central research room. This is the entrance as soon as you get off the elevator. And the desk that you see right there, you can see a little box on the desk to the left-hand side of the door. That's where the pink forms go. And as soon as your records have been pulled and are available, the pink forms will show up. When you are actually viewing documents themselves, you will go into the research room. This is the only place that you can look at your original documents. They are very limited in what you can bring in, and they're going to make you open up your computer to make sure you didn't slide anything in between, the screen and the keyboard and whatnot as you're leaving. But it is an amazing opportunity to view and touch history. Here's a sample of what you might get once your records have been pulled. And you can have up to 2 carts worth at any one time. These happen to be a bunch of boxes of immigration cases, individuals who were having some issues trying to get into the country. They tend to be brought out on a cart like this. You can keep it in other words, from the day that you get it, 3 days, they'll automatically keep it, but you can, as long as you're still using it, that 3 days keeps moving. So it's a great way to go through a lot of records and get an opportunity to look at all sorts of cool things. Here are some sample documents from some of the resources I have examined. Sometimes I find photographs of individuals. There's a lot of various legal mumbo jumbo type things. There's something called a board of special inquiry. It's literally an interview with the passenger, which I find to be quite fascinating. Archives 2, we're going to spend 1 day at Archives 2. This is located in College Park, Maryland. It has many records for modern military documents. David can definitely help you on that. Both he and I will be on this particular tour. And then it has a lot of the civilian agencies, so travel, the Treasury Office. And what that means is that certain aspects of people going through Ellis Island, some of their records may be housed under those civilian agencies and only available at Archives 2. Again, there is a great page on the National Archives website about what to expect when you're coming to College Park. I'm a big proponent in being prepared, so I'm always checking things like this out. So you can definitely do that as well in preparation. Finally, it's Washington, D.C. We'll be there in March. So there is the National Archives Museum. That's the side with the Constitution, Declaration of Independence, and so on. I'll be honest, I'd been to DC probably 8 years before I ever went to that side of the National Archives building. There is the cherry blossoms are usually in bloom about the time that we will be there. And then, of course, there are tons of museums, including all of the Smithsonian museums and all of the wonderful statues and so on. It's a great opportunity to do some wonderful genealogy, but also have a good time. All right, our next tour that I'm going to talk about is our Canadian research tour. Super excited about this one as well. We will be in Ottawa. And this particular tour is going to be May 5th to the 11th in 2024. We will be going to Library and Archives Canada, sometimes affectionately known as BACLAC. We will also be visiting the Military History Research Center that is housed in the Canadian War Museum. And we're going to spend a day at the Ontario Genealogical Society's Ottawa branch. For our hotel, we'll be staying at the Hilton Homewood Suites in downtown Ottawa. At Backlog, they have a ton of resources. They've got census records, immigration and deportation records, naturalization records, World War I personnel service records, records of certain types of employment, as well as ethnocultural family history. This is the Library and Archives Canada website. They have begun a migration. So some pages show up on the old Backlog site and some are appearing on the library-archives.canada.ca site. However, this is their main site and you can do a collection search right here. And however, you can also browse some of their collections. The collection search is one of my go-tos. And the library catalog, aka Aurora, this is a great way to see what published records, books and such they have at the repository. And then one of the things that I am huge on, even though many theses and dissertations have nothing to do with genealogy, the records and resources they use very often can assist us. So I'm all about looking at theses and dissertations and seeing what resources they used and where they're located. So I really encourage you to search that collection as well. Meanwhile, the Military History Research Center, they have a lot of resources, including the George Metcalf Archival Collection that has original letters and diaries, scrapbooks, logbooks, a variety of maps, including 3D maps, which I think is pretty cool, blueprints and postcards. You can kind of see what the research room looks like there in the photo. There's also the Hartland Molson Library Collection. These are published volumes, and they include regimental histories. Those are really super important in learning about skirmishes that our ancestors may have participated in, a number of published personal memoirs. They also have periodicals and newspapers, wartime pamphlets, talk about taking a step back into history, military, technical, and field manuals. I'm sort of a geek, so I would probably look at those just because I think that would be a lot of fun. And then they have 5,000 rare books as well. The catalog can be accessed. They have both their artifacts and archives catalog, and they have the library catalog, which is part of WorldCat. Then they have Democracy at War, which looks at the Canadian newspapers and the Second World War, which is kind of like newspapers are really a snapshot of what people were thinking at the time. As I mentioned, we will be at the Ottawa branch of the Ottawa Genealogical Society, and some of the resources that they have are phenomenal, including the United Empire Loyalist Society records. Many of us have some loyalists who went north to get out of Dodge. They also have the Montreal-Ottawa Conference of the United Church records. And some city corporation historical collections and records, which can be a great way to understand what was going on with the city and the individuals who had businesses and so forth. Then there are indexes to land and parish and vital records and the surviving records from the 1851 Irish census. Again, they have a webpage, ottawa.ogs.ontario.ca or .on.ca. So you can start there. It is a subscription, it's a membership organization, so they do encourage that. So the fact that we're going to get to go in and research is sort of a bonus. And you can definitely check things out on their catalog to get a sense of what they may have. I put in the word loyalist and there were over 12,000 entries for just that key term. As you can see, tons and tons of different things here on the loyalist search. And among other things, loyalist graves, Pioneer Memorial Cemetery, all sorts of different things, including some of their seminar syllabuses. Now, while we'll be in Ottawa, which is the red square that you see, some of you may want to consider staying extra or going early and visiting Toronto. It's not very far away. It's roughly a 4-hour train trip, so it's very inexpensive. And the Archives of Ontario is located in Toronto, which is, another wonderful place to research if you have Ontario ancestry. And for myself personally, who will be going to Toronto, they have the Hockey Hall of Fame. I am obsessed with hockey, so I'm going to be there. And another tour that I'm always looking forward to when we do it is our Northern Ireland research tour. Here we will spend the June 18th to the 25th in Belfast. Belfast is a beautiful, beautiful city, lots of friendly people. We go to a number of different repositories, including PRONI, which is the Public Record Office of Northern Ireland, Ulster Historical Foundation, and the Belfast Central Library. We will be staying at the very famous Europa Hotel, the most bombed hotel in the area. Also, the sun doesn't set until like 11 o'clock at night. So after a full day of research, you could go out and have some fun as well. The records that are at the Public Record Office of Northern Ireland run the gambit. There are church records, estate collections, wills, court records, census and census substitutes, tithe allotment books, valuations and maps, military rosters, and directories, just to name a few of the options. Most of what we spend or start with at PRONI is church records. They have Church of Ireland, Roman Catholic, Presbyterian, Methodist, Baptist, Quaker, Moravian, Congregational. Many of these are on microfilm, though they do have some that are still in original form and or copies that have been put into print. They have a great guide. The URL is right there, but I'm going to show you what the guide is comprised of. It's basically a PDF of like 300 pages. So a guide to church records. It was last updated October of 2019, and it is arranged by town. And right here, you can see that it's identifying the various churches. So like C is for the Church of Ireland, or CI for Church of Ireland. We have M for Methodist, P for Presbyterian. This is not just what is housed at the Public Record Office of Northern Ireland. You will notice that in some cases over on the right-hand column, some have like cryptic codes of MPC or MIC. Those are going to be microfilms and other catalog entries to collections that are at PRONI, but you may see something that is in local custody. So that's going to be specifically at the church itself. And then you'll see also down at towards the bottom, you'll see one that mentions in the Presbyterian Historical Society. So this catalog, this guide is really beneficial to anybody researching their family in Northern Ireland. Last November, I had the opportunity to go to PRONI for a week. I had a wonderful time. Among other things, I did have to visit the Presbyterian Historical Society to look at this little tiny book that you see over on the left. It was a small account book for 1719 to 1728, listing individuals in the Presbyterian Church and the money that they were paying, stipend for the minister and so forth. It's a wonderful, wonderful, tiny little place with such helpful staff, but it's in this massive building. And one of the things is that if you do find that you are going to have to go to the Presbyterian Historical Society, that would be a trip you'd have to arrange for yourself. It's going to be downtown Belfast near our hotel, but you would have to arrange an appointment ahead of time. The PRONI e-catalog, you can do all sorts of searching on it. You'll see here I have done a search on Coleraine Church, just to get a sense of church records in Coleraine. And I see all sorts of things now. According to them, the two words Coleraine and church give me 288 items in the catalog. One of the things that's very, very important is their kind of reference coding system. And sometimes it's easier to get a better sense of what something is and what it's attached to, in other words, the larger collection, if you use that reference number and you browse instead of search. So by browsing, what you do is you put in that cryptic code, MIC whatever, or in this case, the D597/3/1, and then you do your search. And one of the things that I like about this is that it's hierarchical, so I can tell there is that volume of late 18th century copies that I saw that had to do with Coleraine, but above that, you can see through the indentions what this is as part of the bigger collection that it is located in. Here are some sample records that I've had an opportunity to use. I have to say that people are amazing. The security guards there, if they think that you need some kind of weights to help hold down the documents in question, they will bring them to you, pillows to hold books and so forth. Everybody is super friendly. There are what the General Record Office terminals. This would be for civil registration records. They have 4 dedicated terminals, and they were put in, they were there in 2018. They're still there when I was there this last November. However, at the time, they were having some kind of technical issue, so I wasn't able to use them when I was there in November, but they were still physically there, so they were trying to address the issue. However, there are fees to view those records. We'll also spend a day at the Ulster Historical Foundation. This is a library. They also have an online site that can be especially useful, but again, not everything that they have is available on their online site. Their focus, of course, is Ulster. That's the upper 9 counties of Ireland as it existed before the split in 1922. You can see here they have some compressed shelving, and to fit as many books in as possible, they have some great helpful staff, and it's a wonderful place to visit. We'll spend Saturday at the Belfast Central Library. It is a public library, and you can see one of the rooms. A lot of the rooms on the different floors look similar to this one. Lots of tables. The books are open stack. They also have a huge newspaper morgue, for lack of a better term, a newspaper archive where they have bound lots of old newspapers into big volumes like the size of the newspapers, and you can request those and go through them to see certain things. Finally, every time I go to Belfast, I continue to sightsee. I really, really love this city. I've been going there yearly since 2015. I really encourage you to set up a black cab tour to see either to take just a tour around Belfast. I particularly like the murals tour because there's a lot. This is something you don't see over here in the US, but there's a lot of murals that have been painted on buildings that deal with the troubles that they went through for so many years. There's also the Titanic experience. That is literally just down the road from the Public Record Office. So you'll see it when the bus takes us to Prony.
Okay, great. Well, I'll tell you, there's some exciting opportunities that Rhonda has just mentioned, but we also have a new one that we have on our schedule for 2024, and that is the American Ancestors Comes to the Midwest Genealogy Center. Now, the American Ancestors trip here is a new one, and this is going to be almost 11 months from now. It's going to be August 8th to 10th, 2024. And we're going out to Independence, Missouri to this facility. It's a new facility compared to a lot of that you may have visited, like, say, the National Archives, etc. Now, in this case, it's a little different. The hotel is not included. And Kathleen can talk about that more if you have questions. Now, the history of the Midwest Genealogy Center, just to get a little bit of a background in case you haven't been there or you have considered, but you don't know much about it. The MGC is part of the Mid-Continent Public Library System. Back in 1971, they acquired a collection of the Missouri County histories, and they had essentially a Missouri room, which was open at the Independence branch to accommodate the pursuit for genealogy and historical research. In June of 2008, the MGC opened its location at 3440 South Lee's Summit Road in Independence. And the MGC's circulating collection is donation based that started from contributions from various genealogical societies, the American Family Records Association, the Missouri State Genealogical Association, the Heart of America Genealogical Library, and the Gann Historical Society and Library Incorporated. The MGC is one of the U.S.'s largest resources for family history, providing access to almost 750,000 on-site materials. They have over 52,000 square feet of space. Gives you a lot of place to move around and do your research as well as locate things. And then this is all the free resources that they have to help you with your family history. Their collections offer resources for genealogy research that spans not just the U.S., but around the world. It has a uniquely expansive circulating collection, so you may find that you can find titles that they will circulate to your home library. So check into that. MGC, you will find access to databases, scanning and digitization stations. If you have a need, you can also record your oral history there. There's microfilm readers, scanners, and so much more. Now, they have over 23,000 books available for checkout in interlibrary loans. So that is quite an amazing amount of their collection. 155,000 titles of family genealogies they have on site. They have, of course, local and state histories, compiled county records for all the United States counties. And they have also, again, beyond US, international records. They have genealogical periodical collection with over 2,000 titles, and they currently have over 500 subscriptions to periodicals and magazines. Now, their microfilm collection is expansive as well. Of course, they have the U.S. federal censuses. They have land sales from the government in Missouri from 1818 to 1903. They have the Draper manuscripts for genealogical purposes, Kentucky tax records, the records of the Missouri State Penitentiary, 1836 to 1931. I'm very curious to look at those myself. Papers of the St. Louis fur trade. They have the indexes of compiled military service records for Missouri for both the Union and Confederate Civil War veterans. They have compiled service records for Union and Confederate Civil War soldiers, as well as, of course, the index. The passenger list, Native American sources, state and local sources on microfilm, and partial state vital records for Washington State, Alabama, and Oregon, which you may not think for would be in Missouri. They also have records for antebellum Southern plantations. City directory collection is massive and it contains things more than Missouri. They have the newspapers such as the Independence Examiner, Kansas City Star, Kansas City Times, and 50 other Missouri newspaper titles. They have the American Biographical Archives, the Black Biographical Dictionaries, Civil War Unit Regimental Histories. They again also have partial state vital records for Arkansas, California, Georgia, Illinois, Indiana, Kentucky, Oregon, and Texas. And they also have Massachusetts original town records. That's partially incomplete. It's an ongoing purchase in their collection. And if you need Massachusetts, you can always check with us, of course. UMI Genealogy and Local History Series, the United States Serial Set, and records of the executive branch of the government documents as well on microfilm. Now, the MGC catalog is pretty straightforward, and I'll give you an example of that. Their catalog is at mymcpl.bibliocommons.com. Now, the Mid-Continent Public Library is the host of it, and so you want to make sure that you put in the specific library, and I'll show you. So let's look for Missouri Cemetery in a search. Once I do that, on the left-hand side, you can filter your results. And what I did is I selected the Midwest Genealogy Center. There are over 925 titles relating to Missouri cemeteries. And on the right-hand side, it will give me a brief description that also includes the call number. They use the Dewey call number system. And you can create a shopping list, say maybe before you go, and then you actually don't have to spend a lot of time in the catalog when you're there. So here's a full catalog reference for this one particular title, Cemetery Directory of Hickory County, Missouri, giving you when the book was published, who was publishing it, so you get your bibliographical information or the details. And again, you can place it for on hold, so it might be something you want to put on reserve before you get there. They also have a lot of different databases, and one of them is called Genealogy Quick Look, and allows you to search, find, and request. It's an index portion of their resources from the MGC, as well as an active pension claims to the U.S. Railroad Retirement Board. So you can look up some of the actual pension claims for U.S. Retirement Board for any railroad ancestors you might have. You can search the index by name and date, and you can locate a resource. You'll have an opportunity that you can request it from that organization. So the catalog search is quicklook.midwestgenealogycenter.org, and you can go in and search any of the collections. You can search by last name and first name, and in some cases there are digital links, but a lot of cases it's the actual textual manuscript records, which you can actually look at right there when you're at MGC with us. So for instance, here is one selection. It's just the MGC archive index, but as you can see, there's so many others that you can search through. Over 1.5 billion worker claims to the Railroad Retirement Board, for instance. And of course, they have their own archives. Besides having a massive collection of microfilm, hundreds of thousands of books, they have this wonderful collection of archive material that is unique. And you can find that. It includes military records, land records, photographs, and so much more. So I hope that you want to join us when we go out to Independence, Missouri, and check out some of these wonderful resources. When you're in the archives catalog, you'll also find there's a lot of finding guides that you can download ahead of time as PDF. This might give you a better sense if this is something that you actually want, and will give you all of the details as the collection has been processed. A finding guide will give you folder by folder often to what you'll find. And of course, there's great sightseeing in the Independence area, including the Harry S. Truman Presidential Library Museum, the Vale Mansion, and we're very close to Kansas City, Missouri. Sorry, Kansas City, Kansas, Kansas City, Missouri, the National World War I Museum, which I'm very interested in going to, American Jazz Museum, the Negro Leagues Baseball Museum, and so much more. And at this point, I'm going to turn it over to Kathleen.
Sure. Thank you so much, David, and to Rhonda as well. So I did just want to mention that if you don't want to kind of go on a full research tour, or even if you are and you would also just like to join us for some shorter day trips, we do offer day trips throughout the year around the New England area. So day trips include a pre-trip consultation with a genealogist, an orientation and tour of the repository that we're visiting, and then on-site assistance and support from the genealogists while you're researching. So current plans for day trips this year include the Maine Historical Society and Massachusetts State Archives. We're very excited about those. In the past, we've gone to the Connecticut State Library, the Massachusetts Historical Society, and a lot of other wonderful repositories around the area. If you do have any ideas for repositories that you'd like to visit, do let us know. We're kind of planning these throughout the year, so happy to include any suggestions that you might have, and you can email those to education@nehgs.org. All right, so before we get into your questions, I did also just want to highlight a few upcoming events, but I do want to encourage you to type any questions that you have about the research tours in the Q&A panel found at the bottom of your screen. So for upcoming events, first we have an online course on using court records in your family history research. That will be taking place Wednesdays in September. And actually both David and Rhonda are going to be lecturing during that one, so definitely check that out. Then on September 7th, our genealogist Shayla Dorfler will be giving a free online webinar on the basics of Scandinavian research. And then finally, you can join us on September 11th to hear author Emily Franklin for a discussion about her novel, The Lioness of Boston, a portrait of late 19th century Boston and one of its most daring and celebrated women, Isabella Stewart Gardner. You can learn more about these and all of our upcoming events at americanancestors.org/events. All right, so now we will go ahead and get into your questions. So let's see here. So first, David, I think I'll ask you this question.
Okay.
So we have someone who's just wondering if you can talk a little bit more about how the consultations work, and what's kind of involved with that, both kind of the pre-tour consultation and then the on-site consultations as well.
Sure. Well, I mean, the pre-court tour consultations are set up sort of to give you the guidance before you get there, what to bring, maybe how to help you navigate the catalog system of a particular repository. So you're not going there and wasting the first couple of hours just wondering what that facility actually has. And of course, we can answer genealogical related questions too before the actual tour, and maybe give you a game plan of how to best utilize your time during the week. Now, of course, the in-person ones can be something where it's structured where you have a set question, but also where since Rhonda and myself and others will be at these repositories, it allows you to not feel like you're alone in the research. So we are very often we have a set question that maybe you're going to talk to us about, but when we sit down with you, you might have a completely different thing. You might want to share something you found or something you're having trouble understanding, but we're there as guidance. We're working alongside with you in this respect.
All right, great. Thank you, David. Let's see, Rhonda, I'll ask you this next one here. We have a question from someone who's wondering, my ancestors were primarily in Nova Scotia in the late 1700s into the 1800s. Will the Ottawa repositories house many records from Nova Scotia?
So one of the things that we may find is that some of the records that you need may have been compiled into book form. This is where it's really good to avail yourself of the catalogs to see what types of records they have. Again, while it is in Ontario, because of how Canada sort of worked its way west, you find that a lot of collections do include things for the earlier provinces that existed, as well as, depending on when your people were up there, if they were United Empire loyalists, then that whole collection is in Ottawa. And so you may find that what you need is there, identifying your ancestors and perhaps pointing you to other records as well.
All right, great. Thank you, Rhonda. We also have a question here, which I am happy to answer, which is when is our Massachusetts State Archives day trip scheduled? So that's almost a year from now. It's going to be August 23rd, 2024. So you can mark your calendar very early for that, but you can keep an eye out for more day trip dates as well. All right. Let's see here. So we also have a question. David, I think I'll ask you this one. Someone's wondering if they can divert from these tour schedules at all. Do you have to kind of stick to the specific schedule, or can you kind of go off if you want to tour for one day or do something like that?
Well, I always tell people if you're going to go someplace else, let us know because we don't want to find that, you're sick back in your room. So if you're going to go out, by all means, go for it. I know many people that go to Salt Lake City, they'll go to do some touristy things in the middle of the week. They might meet with family, they might go skiing. The National Archives is so close to all the Smithsonian's. So sometimes people get a little burnt out from research. They want to take the afternoon or a day off. That's very typical. And we're very flexible with that. I always suggest just to let, of course, our leader know. In that case, will be Kathleen in most cases.
Yes, thank you for that, David. I do always give my cell phone out and remind everyone to let me know where you're going so that I don't think I've lost anybody. But we definitely do encourage you, if you want to divert the schedule, to feel free to do that and enjoy the city that we're in, or maybe you have family nearby. So definitely don't feel that you have to stick to our schedule to a T. All right. Next, Rhonda, I think I'll go ahead and ask you this one. We have a question about the National Archives. Someone's wondering if they would have kind of earlier American records as well, or if it would only be records, kind of from a certain point onward.
So basically the National Archives, I would say like the earliest original records that they have kind of start the Rev War, because that's when the country as an entity begins. So if you're talking 1600s, that's not going to be there. However, a lot would depend on specifically what you're looking for. Again, catalogs are going to make or break a decision as to whether or not you go. So you really want to really use those catalogs to the various places we talked about, and or you can email Kathleen. She can reach out to David and myself. If you're having difficulty finding certain things on the catalogs, we could perhaps help with that to determine whether or not things that you need are going to be there. But really, the National Archives is the archives of the nation, so therefore the archives of the United States of America, which technically begins in 1781 when, with the end of the war. But there are a few things that they might have that predate that, but not a lot.
All right, thank you. Next is another question that I'm happy to answer. So someone's wondering, how far in advance do you need to reserve a seat on one of these tours, and how many people are allowed on each tour? So generally we get about 20 to 25 people on each tour. So I'd say that's probably a good estimate there. We do have all of the tours available on our website now for purchase. They were just added the other day, so you can look for those. You can find them by going to americanancestors.org, going to events, and then we have a little filter on the right-hand side where you can select research tours and view all of the upcoming tours. So in terms of how far in advance you need to do it, you can of course do it as soon as today. It's possible they could fill up, so it's always better to do it sooner rather than later. But generally, in terms of a firm deadline, I start kind of sending lists to the hotel and things like that about a month or two in advance. So you'd want to kind of get in there, I'd say at least 2 months before the tour date. So hopefully that answers that question. All right, let's see here. So Rhonda, another question for you. Let's see, where did that go here?
I may have just answered it.
Oh, you might have. Yes, I thought that's a perfect
about the
question
Italians?
for Rhonda. Yes.
About the Italians. Yes, I did just type an answer. She said she was struggling with her Italian ancestry, and which would be better, the National Archives or the Family History Library. Quite frankly, I would say Family History Library. Not only do they have a lot of the records available there in digital format on microfilm, they also have tons of published volumes that can be really, really super helpful in your research, as well as you would have myself there. I tend to be positioned on the floor where the microfilms for the international, so non-US Canada area is, because I do so many of those international countries.
All right, great. Thank you, Rhonda. And then I see we're getting to kind of our end time here, so we'll start wrapping up. But I do want to mention I see a number of questions here about if we'll visit other repositories like the Allen County Genealogical Center, or if we'll ever come to Virginia, things like that. If you do have suggestions for places you'd like us to go in the future, do let me know. You can find my email here on the screen, kathleen.mckenzie@nehgs.org. We'd love to hear your ideas. In fact, I'll give a little shout out to one of our DC tour participants, Mary, who suggested that we go to the Midwest Genealogy Center, and now we're going there. So we definitely do take your input into account. So do feel free to reach out to me with any suggestions. All right, so yes, I do think we will start to wrap up here. Big thank you to David and Rhonda for that great presentation today. If we didn't get to your question, or if you do think of one later on, please do feel free to reach out to us at education@nehgs.org, or feel free to email me directly at the email address on the screen, and I'll be happy to help. If you do have questions about pricing or tour itineraries, things like that, do also look at the individual tour pages found on our website. And as I mentioned, you can use that filter drop-down menu under our events screen to view only the research tours. If you do have any genealogical questions, you can access our free Ask a Genealogist chat service at americanancestors.org/chat, which is available Monday through Saturday from 9 to 5. And that service is free and open to the public. It's a great one, so definitely do check that out. Thank you again for joining us today. As you leave the event, you'll have the opportunity to fill out a survey and give us your feedback. As we continue to expand our webinars and online offerings, any and all feedback is extremely helpful and appreciated. This free webinar was made possible by the generous support of members and friends around the world. Please consider making a gift to American Ancestors to keep these programs free and to help create more free programs in the future. If you'd like to access more how-to resources or learn about upcoming online educational programs, please visit our online learning center at americanancestors.org. Best of luck in your research, and I hope to see you at our online programs in the future, and of course on one of our research tours or day trips. All right, thanks very much, and goodbye for now.